I was devastated. And so I went down and I sat in the audience, and beside me was another speaker at that event. And he looked at me and he goes, "Great talk. How much did you make?" And I was like, "Nothing." I said, "How about you?" And he goes, "I just closed $500,000 in sales." And he looked at me, and I'll never forget this moment. He looked at me and he said, "Well, if you're not making any money doing it, then why are you doing it?" And I could not get out of that room fast enough.
All right, everyone. So today we have Meagan, and she is incredible. I love the work that she does. I'm not going to share a whole lot because I like to leave it up to my guest to tell you guys about themselves. So, Meagan, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Nick, for having me on here. And I'm so excited. I am a speaking coach. And so what I do is I help business owners actually design a signature talk that is rooted in like psychology and understanding what your audience really needs to hear so that you convert sales every single time that you speak.
Which is so important, especially these days, because, you know, your personal brand means more today than it did, like 20 years ago. And if you can have a good story, you connect with your audience a lot better, and you connect with your customers. So, yeah.
It's so true. And I know you and I were chatting about this when we first connected, but we're really in this like trust deficit right now where there's so much AI, there's so much noise, there's so much happening on social media. And one of the biggest questions that people ask is like, well, how do I stand out? Well, one of the best ways is through speaking, and that's either like live stages or podcasts like this. So it needs to happen so that people can actually hear that message.
Yeah, exactly. And like for me, I've been on a few stages over the years, and I want to get on a lot more. So my goal is to start going on one physical stage every month
Nice.
and two virtual stages like this, a podcast, every month. That's my goal because speaking is so important. And I have a lot to learn. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm no expert at speaking, but over the years, I'm getting better and better. And I take different courses. I've worked with people like yourself. And yeah, it's so incredible how much you don't know. They say you don't know what you don't know. And
It's
the more
true.
you know, the better you get.
It's so true. And what I love about it is oftentimes when we go into like speaking, we think that, well, we're passionate about the topic, we can just get onto stage and it's all about the charisma, but there's so many other factors that go into it. And understanding like the psychology of the human brain and what your audience needs to hear and the little nuances that are really important to bring in. And how do we simplify our message so that it's speaking directly to them in their language versus trying to appear like we're the expert in the industry? All of these things. And when we match them together with like our stage presence and all of the other aspects, that's what really creates results. And when we can get into it about being about results versus applauses, then that's where business really begins to flourish.
Yeah, that's so true. Like you were saying, presence is so important. And it matters all the way down to like when you move around on the stage as far as how you get people's attention. Like I've taken a few stage courses, and it's like, one of the things is like if you're talking about something positive, stand over here. If it kind of goes more towards a negative thing or something that you had to get through and learn something, you stand over here. Like it's really cool how you can, move around like that.
Yeah. And showing people, right, what we're saying. Sometimes I've seen brilliant speakers who stand behind a podium and they just stand there and they read and their message is really, really impactful. But because the energy and their stage presence isn't there, it becomes lackluster. And so when we show our audience what we're doing, like I love to talk about like visual storytelling. So like when you're saying something, act as if you're actually doing that motion. And then the audience leans in because they feel like they're in it with you. And then all of a sudden that trust gap goes from like here to here because they're in it. They're in your journey. They're leaning in and they can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Hmm. I know that for me, one of the things that I've always done, because I think I've done 5 physical stages, and physical stages is a whole different game than virtual, as we all
Oh yeah.
know. But the first thing I like to do is I like to get the audience to react to me, whether that's saying something or tell them to say something or clap or anything like that. Like I start off with that just to like grab their attention, you know?
Yes. Well, and I love that you do that because one of the most important things to think about is like how you start your talk, right? And so, like, one of the old ways of doing things was to ask a question right away. But psychologically, because there's so much noise out there and because people are still trying to decide whether or not they want to listen, you have 6 seconds, right, to grab their attention. So you can't ask them a question because then they have to go in and start thinking about it. Instead, you want to like start off with something really impactful that drops them into their seat and has them kind of leaning in right away. And then from there, asking some like identifying questions, have the audience like feel like you know them, right? So I often will say an example is when I go into a room, I start off and I start chatting, and then I'll say, I know you're all speakers. How many here have been speaking on stages? And then they'll raise their hand. And I'm like, okay, how many of you are closing sales by speaking on stages? And then maybe a few let like some hands go up. So then it just helps to identify people and they feel seen and they feel heard right away. Those are
Hmm.
really cool tips to use.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I really do. And, it's amazing, like you were talking about earlier, how we have to build a lot more trust these days than we used to. And that's something that I work really, really hard on. And if people go on my social media, especially my personal Facebook, they'll see like I get a lot of action on there. And when my clients or the people I talk to ask me like, "How you do it?" I tell stories. I show people who I actually am, and I do it every single day. It's so important to be present every day on social media and show people that you're human, you're not AI, they can trust you, and they can get to know you.
Yeah, stories are so important because they are that differentiating factor, right? Like, and when we use stories intentionally, they showcase our character and they allow us to showcase our expertise. And it also allows us to relate to our audience because there's nothing harder than trying to say, oh, I can teach you how to do this, but not helping your audience to see that you were once where they are, right? And those stories are so vital. We want to have like a wide variety of stories too, like ones that are a little bit more humbling or maybe a little bit self humiliating. Because we've all been there. We've all gone through challenges. We've all fallen flat on our face before. And so when we can share those, then again, it creates that resonance. People are like, okay, this person isn't just like some perfect cyborg out there. We can trust them.
Yep, exactly.
Right. And then like some heartbreak, like, cause we've all gone through that. What are some challenges? What are some hard things that we've gone through that built out resiliency or or created an understanding of things that we can do that maybe we didn't know until those moments. Um, and then we need some funny stuff too, right? We need to have that diversity of being able to laugh because humor brings people together in a really big way.
Yeah, I've never gotten on stage without making everybody laugh. Like it's like my goal every time is I have to get everybody in the room to laugh.
Yes. I'm so glad that you do that because so many speakers kind of focus more on like the heartbreak or the humiliation or whatever, right? But
Hmm.
that humor helps bring the energy up. And there's a reason why they say that laughter is the best medicine. It's also the best way to build community.
It is. That's totally true. And One of the main reasons why I started this podcast is to help more people share their story. So, with that, what's your story? How did you get into this line of work?
Yeah, honestly, I never thought that I would be a speaker, let alone a speaking coach. And when I first started off my journey as a business owner, I started off in the yoga world. And again, didn't ever have it on my list of things to do that I was going to become an entrepreneur. But like every other business out there, we start off with passion. And so I had taken my yoga teacher training. It changed my life. And I knew that I had to share it with the world. And so through that, I learned like marketing and sales, and I really created a successful business. And I was traveling, I was doing retreats and trainings around the world. And eventually I started to get asked to speak on stages. And I kind of had the opposite problem that a lot of people have, where I was getting invited to speak on like big stages, but I didn't know how to speak. Like I was a great speaker. I got told all the time I was a great speaker. And then I would leave the event with applauses. And eventually what ended up happening, weirdly enough, is speaking like literally killed my business because I was traveling to all of these events. I was focusing all of my time and energy into these speaking events that my business started to dwindle. And I remember I was speaking at this event in Vegas and I had perfected my talk. So I thought, and I went up on stage. I shared my story. I shared my content, and the whole room was standing by the time I was done. And so I was like, this is it. I finally did it. And I looked over to my booth and there was people lined up, and I walked down from the stage. I walked over, and one by one, each person told me how much my talk had impacted them. They told me their life story, and then they walked away. I had to literally borrow money to get to this event. Like
Mhm.
I was devastated. And so I went down and I sat in the audience, and beside me was another speaker at that event. And he looked at me and he goes, "Great talk. How much did you make?" And I was like, "Nothing." I said, "How about you?" And he goes, "I just closed $500,000 in sales."
Damn.
And he looked at me, and I'll never forget this moment. He looked at me and he said, "Well, if you're not making any money doing it, then why are you doing it?" And I could not get out of that room fast enough, Nick. Like I ran out as fast as I could and wanted to hide. And then the event host called me and he's like, "Hey, like we've got a VIP dinner tonight. We're doing hot seat coaching. Would love to have you in the room for this." So I like made myself up again, brushed away the tears, pulled up my big girl pants, and I walked into that room. And as I walked in, I literally felt like I had this neon light shining over my head, being like, fraud, fraud.
Yeah.
And I was so embarrassed. I felt like everybody could see that I was failing. And I walked into that room and he pulled me aside and he said, "You know, Meagan, I don't invite a lot of people to come back and speak at my events, but I want you to come back. But before you do, I want you to learn everything that you need to learn about speaking."
Mhm.
And so I did. I made it my mission. I invested in speakers training. I invested time and energy and practice until I got to the point where I was starting to convert
Mhm.
50% of the room when I spoke.
Wow. Wow.
And then it just lit this fire within me because I realized that there's so many people that are great speakers, that are great at what they do in their business, but they're not closing sales.
Mhm.
And so how do we teach them how to actually close sales in a way that really promotes growth in their business, where they can feel like they're actually making that impact and do something that they love at the same time?
Mhm. I love that. And what would you say the top three things were that you had to change to go from not converting anybody to converting half the room? This episode is sponsored by A Topic AI for Opportunity. A Topic is an AI powered opportunity discovery platform. And the best word that I can describe it is ChatGPT, but instead of giving you information, it gives you real people you should be connecting with. Whether you're looking for clients, partners, investors, job prospects or high intent leads, topic makes it simple. You just type what you're looking for, and the AI thinks through thousands of signals, and then surfaces verified prospects with context, not random lists. It even helps you follow up, nurture conversations, and track your pipeline. What I love about Atopic and why I'm excited to have them as a sponsor is that they're solving the biggest problem in business growth, finding the right people at the right time. If you haven't yet, go to atopic.com and try it. It's one of the smartest tools out there for people trying to grow their business.
Yeah. So the biggest one was really having the systems in the back of my talk. So, and understanding that each length of talk requires something different on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, like a 20-minute talk, those aren't really for sales unless it's a warm market. Usually those are for lead generation, right? And so what is that like really great gift that you can give? And is it seamless, right? Like, is it an easy yes and it makes sense to be the next step? If you've got like 45 minutes to an hour, then you can sell an offer depending on the stage, right? Always listen to what the event host wants you to do. But again, each thing is a little bit different. And so it doesn't mean that you need to create different talks, but it just means that you need to have a different through line to ensure that you're walking people to that next step. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, again, the beginning of your talk, right? So how you start your talk is really how you're going to end your talk. It's kind of like the same idea of like how you start your day is how your day will go, how you start your week, all of those things, right? That same pattern exists in speaking. And so that creating that connection, creating that community right at the beginning with intention is really vital. And then the third piece is it's all about creating clarity. So it's not about trying to fire hose this value into people and like share all that you can in a short amount of time. It's looking at what do they need to know that will create clarity for them to say, yes, I need to take action on this to get real results in my life. And then once you have that clarity, then it really simplifies what is it that you actually need to say and how you need to say it.
Yeah, that's so true. And like, once you can articulate how you help people in a way that people understand, everything changes in a talk. You you want your talk to be at like a sixth grade level. That's what I've been taught. And you also want like how you help people, like how you explain it. You should be able to call your sister and say it and have her understand.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've gone through this, so I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But like, it's like if you called your sister and said, "Hey, this is how I help people," they should understand.
100%. And you know, it's interesting because we have a tendency of as human beings to overcomplicate things,
But yeah,
right? Like we want to appear like smarter than we need to be, right? And my favorite quote ever, I live by this quote in everything that I do, is that simplicity is the highest form of sophistication. So when we're able to simplify things, it means that we understand it at a way higher level than if we are trying to overcomplicate it.
yep, that is so true, so true. And for the people listening, I know that they know by now that you can help them be a great speaker. So how do they contact you to do that?
Yeah. So my website is untamedspeakersuccess.com. And on there, I love to give free gifts. Like I love to give value
Hmm.
because why not? I can. I want you guys all to be successful in speaking. Like that is my mission. I am going to help 1 million people each achieve like really great success, 5, 6 figures just through speaking alone is my goal. And so on there is a diagnostic quiz. So if you're a speaker, you can go on there and you can see like what are the bottlenecks right now in your current talk that are holding you back from actually getting those results, from closing those six-figure marks.
That's amazing, and thank you for that, and I will drop your links below in the, description.
Amazing. Yes. And I would love to connect because I really do believe that speaking and podcasting, like I love what you do, Nick, because this is where business is going, right? Like the more that you speak, the more you get on podcasts, this is what's going to allow you to stand out in business.
Mhm. It's so true, so true. And I have one last, question for you. So my slogan is, "Your abilities are infinite." What does that mean to you?
Such a good question. Oh my gosh, Nick, I love it. So our abilities are infinite. I feel like this really like resonates because so often we think about our limitations when really the only limit that we actually have is the belief in what we're able to do. And so it's just that, like, take that out. We can do anything. We can do absolutely anything. And often all it takes is connecting to the right people, learning the right skills, and just taking action to do the things that we want to do.
That is so true, and that is, like, how I live, because we are only limited by what we believe we can do. My whole life changed when I started to believe in myself and be like, "Alright, no matter what, I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm at least gonna try," you know? And the way I live now is like I try, and if I so-called fail, well, guess what? I learned something, and I'm gonna try it again a different way.
Right? Oh my gosh, I love that that's how you live your life.
Mhm.
Something I don't share a lot, but I probably should, but this resonates so much is I joke that my life is a science experiment. And so every single thing that I do, yes, I've got like a prediction of the outcome, but I go in with the intention of making that falsified so that I can learn the truth. And so that comes with a lot of failing, but is it really failing or is it just learning the ways that aren't working so that you can actually define the ways that are?
Exactly. Like, so many people are so afraid to, fail, and I'm not, because I know that if it doesn't work out the way that I think it will, then I'm just gonna learn something and try again, you know? It's just don't give up. That's all there is. Just don't give up.
No. That's so true, man. Like, and I think that's often like the biggest limitation that people have, right? Is they're so afraid to fail or look silly or whatever. And at the end of the day, life, like just go out and live it.
Yeah, my mentor, Dr. Rob, Kelly, he says it over and over. He's like, "You need to live like nobody cares, because they really don't care as much as you think." Like how people look at you is like you think a lot worse about yourself than how other people think about you.
Yes. Yes, I couldn't agree more. And we let that like idea that people are thinking about us so much hold us
Mhm.
back. When in
Yep.
reality, like I always joke with myself because I'll sit and be like, okay, well, how often am I thinking or judging other people? I'm
Mhm.
not because I don't got time for that. So why am I thinking that other people are doing that to me?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Like that's exactly it. Like I did that about 5 years ago, because my whole life, living with cerebral palsy, I did not like going out in public. I did if I had to order food at a restaurant, I would have somebody else I was with order it for me, because I would stutter so bad to try to order food back then. I couldn't get word out. And, I went through a lot of self-development and coaching and being confident in myself, and now I stutter a lot less. And now, like, I can go out to a restaurant, order my food, no problem. But a lot of that has to do with how I view myself, and when I realized that people don't view me the way that I thought that they did. I was judging myself way worse than anybody else.
Yeah, like, and now you're speaking on stages and you're hosting podcasts. Like, I think that's brilliant, Nick. And thank you for sharing that because you're just like inspiring me even more to look at like, how am I holding myself back?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's brilliant.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome. All right, Megan, this was so fun. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, thank you, Nick. I really enjoyed this. I really have enjoyed getting to know you and everything that you're about. So thank you. It's an honor to be here.
If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit. Because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth, help more people. All right, everyone. Remember, your abilities are infinite.